Steve Mazzacane. This is the Steve Mazzacane podcast. We are here on Tuesday, October 4th, just to a few things to go over. First of all, if you are been suffering the last few weeks in the stock market, the last few days have been pretty amazing. It's amazing to watch the rebound here. Hopefully it sticks. We'll see what happens. We'll talk more about stocks the next couple of days on what the Fed is doing and what things we have to look out for moving forward. We'll follow up a little bit on yesterday's conversation because I got some questions last night on Legacy Theater and Theater in Brantford, and I want to talk about that a little bit. We'll get to later on. We'll talk about some of the education stuff we talked about yesterday and the student loan program, some of the challenges to that, and my thoughts on that. But first, Chris Lemieux, I'm going to bring him on now. If you don't know who Chris Lemieux is, if you missed, now I have not seen Chris in a lot of things, but in the last few months, I saw him in Chicago, which, Chris, you were spectacular in. I saw you in Charlie Brown.
Thank you.
I'll be honest about the Charlie Brown. Like the source material was not the quality of Chicago. I'll say that. Performances were fine, no issue there. But from a play standpoint, it's hard. I got to give you some credit because it's hard to take a play or a character who doesn't necessarily have a significant character arc. Unlike, say, I always call him the cellophane character. I forgot the character's name in Chicago, but that's how I refer to him.
Hart, yeah.
Amos Hart, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So, but you're on to talk about a play you're doing that's coming up. Before we get there, I want you to tell us a little bit about you. What is your background in theater, your background in Brantford?
Yeah, so my name is grew up in Brantford, Connecticut. I was Mary T. Murphy, Walsh Intermediate, Brantford High School, and I did tutelage of Kathy Ann Roding, and my love for theater kind of to school in university, and from there I lived out a couple of years toured around different places doing theater.
Right, hold on 1 second. Chris, you're breaking up a lot. I'm guessing you're at the community house.
I am.
Yeah, the internet isn't great at the community house. Is there a way you can grab a cell phone and go into the parking lot or go outside? The building at the community house sometimes isn't good for internet.
Let me try to figure something out for you.
All right, so you can just come back on when you're ready.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, we want to hear what you have to say because I am interested in that play. I will go see that play, but we want to make sure we can hear it. And you're kind of going in and out. The community house internet is not great. I don't know why that is, but let me go. All right, so we'll give you a second. Okay.
Yeah.
Come back on when you're ready. Okay. Sorry about that. I do want to talk to him because the play he's doing is called Puffs or something along those lines, but it's it makes fun of basically Harry Potter. And I'm a Harry Potter fan. I can't deny the fact that I am a 44-year-old male who enjoys Harry Potter stuff, and I have for a long time. I'll tell you a story. One of the early people know this. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and I was out with some friends when one of the first ones came out, and witnesses apparently were not supposed to watch Harry Potter. I didn't realize that. I just looked at it as a kid's movie. So we went to see a movie and just happened to go see a Harry Potter movie. And the next day I was like, wow, I saw this great movie last night. It was a kid's movie, but it was really good. And when I told people what it was like the world came to an end. Like, how dare you watch a Harry Potter movie? That's the life of a Jehovah's Witness. And so when I left, I'm like, yeah, I'm watching all the Harry Potter movies. So it is one of those movies that if it's on, I watch it. It's amazing about them that I don't know that I could think of a movie that had better casting of kids, because casting kids has to be the toughest thing you could possibly do, right? You're trying to get kids from, 8, 9 years old all the way to 18, 19, 20 over the course of those books. And that casting was absolutely perfect. So whoever cast those characters early on somehow did an amazing job of having characters that were, of actors that were good actors and stayed with those roles the rest of the way. So I want to get Chris back on and talk about the show when he comes on. If you didn't see Chicago, he was spectacular as Amos Hart, really show-stopping. You don't know where it comes from. He's got these glasses. He looks like he's kind of quiet. I don't know him personally. And then this performance and his voice comes out of him. That's just like, holy God, where did that come from? So a really good performance. One of the things we'll talk about, we'll get back to him, I was asked about yesterday was the Legacy Theater. And I'm always questioned when I critique or have something critical to say about a nonprofit. You know, my viewpoint when it comes to nonprofits, if you are not paying taxes or avoiding taxes or getting state or federal money, is that we need to be more critical of that, more critical of where tax dollars are going. And so it's not a critique of, I don't like the Legacy Theater or I don't like another group. Years ago, there was a organization that was getting money from the town that I wasn't for. And so some of the members were very much, how dare you speak about a nonprofit that way? The question when it comes to tax dollars isn't if we should spend on certain things. Should we spend on the arts? Sure, we should. Should we spend on feeding the homeless? Should we spend on affordable housing? Should we spend on all those things? Yes, we should. The question when it comes to spending is, are we getting value for those things? And one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit is education. You know, this idea that we pay off $10,000 in student loans. And if you mention that on social media, that you're against it, you are attacked. You're a far right, Trump loving, whatever. If you say this should not happen, that you're not for this. The problem with that is that it's not a question of whether or not we should support education. You have a choice to go to Southern or Harvard. You have a choice to get your English degree at Yale or Gateway or Albertus Magnus, and those things are not equal. The outcomes are not significantly different. Your earning power is not significantly different, but your choice to get English 101 for $300 versus $3,000 of credit is your choice. So simply saying we should spend $10,000 to pay off somebody's college loans or $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever, is the question isn't should we or shouldn't we, it's a question of value. And if we want to make sure more people get an education, I'm all for paying for people to go to state school, to go to Gateway, to go get a certificate. I'm all for that. I'm not all for the decision for somebody from Connecticut to go to Pennsylvania for school at $80,000 a year, pay for their room and board, and then say, well, we should pay for that too. There's a significant difference. And so when we talk about nonprofits, when we talk about federal spending, state spending, even town spending, the question isn't should we? Yes, we should make sure we're handling those that have needs, basic human needs. Yes, we should take care of roads. Yes, we should have more police. Yes, we should have more fire. The question should be, are we getting value? And you ask that question in every other dollar you spend in life. If you decide you need to buy a car, it's not, I need a Mercedes. It's what are we getting most value for? If you decide you need a house, it's not, I need a mansion. It's, are we getting value? We don't say, oh my God, I'm broke because I bought this mansion. Well, you didn't get value for it. You made a stupid decision. And if somebody decides to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on college to go to out of state and for room and board, should the government then say, should the taxpayers be asked, well, we want to pay that off for you, pay your $10,000 for you. And that's the question that I raise when it comes to nonprofits, when it comes to spending. I have something in my eye. Chris, it looks like you're back. Going to bring him back on. All right. You sound better? You better?
Is it better?
A little delay, but it sounds a little better. So we'll go ahead and we'll see what we have. Okay. And we'll go from there, right?
All right.
Okay.
That's great.
So a little bit about, I know you went to Mary T. Murphy. How did you get involved in theater at Branford?
Yeah. So actually, Colin Sheehan, a name that not many people know in town, was actually my very first director. I played Joseph in the St. Mary's, when it was known as St. Mary's, production of the Christmas Nativity. Actually, correction, I was Shepherd number 3. And then the following year, I played Joseph. So that's actually how I got my start. But my parents actually were like, yeah, he was good in it. I was probably 8 at the time. And then they put me through all of the sports imaginable, t-ball, soccer, water polo, just all these crazy sports. And I hated every single one of them until I was in 7th grade. And my mom and dad were just like, you need to get out of this house or I don't know what we're going to do. And they put me into a production of Guys and Dolls at Tabor. And and it kind of just clicked right there. And then from there, I did the musicals Kathy Ann Roding and Tony Cardisano in high school, and then moved on to Pace University, where I graduated with a BFA in acting. And then I did the New York City actor grind for about 10 years. And through that, I got my actor's equity card and toured around Alabama and premiered some things in LA. And then COVID hit, and I found myself back here. And I kind of hooked up with Mike Martone Jr. and Colin Sheehan with Shoreline Theatre Company, Parks and Recreation Shoreline Theatre Company. And from that, I've just been doing shows with them. And then with Legacy opening, I've been able to do professional shows with them. And it kind of, since COVID hit, I thought I would kind of be here and not be able to do what I love. But now it's starting to be an arts community that Brantford has always said it was. So it's pretty awesome.
I want you to do me a favor. That phrase, the New York City theater grind. Now, we have a lot of students that leave Brantford with a focus on theater. And Brantford is one of those arts-heavy kind of schools. What is that like? What is that day-to-day grind like, auditioning? Describe that for me.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a lot less glamorous on how they portray it in the movies. It is a lot of waiting. And not just waiting as in you're waiting around. It's a lot of waiting tables and waiting and doing whatever you can to kind of survive in a city that is very, very expensive to live in. And for that, it's kind of, I would go online every single day. I would look at the auditions that are posed. They would be in all different parts of Times Square. So the beautiful thing is all of these auditions, they all kind of exist. These auditions exist in the same neighborhoods. So you'd get off one audition, you'd go to another, you'd go to another, you'd go to another. You may hear back from some, you may hear back from none. It took me about a year and a half to hear back from my first professional gig. So, and it's just, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And it's interesting because when I was here in Brantford, I was a big fish in a small pond. And then I got to New York City and I had no idea how small of a fish I was. And it was a big eye opener. For some people, it really demoralizes you and they get out of the game really quick. And for others, it's kind of a challenge. And for me, I took that as a challenge and being like, I need to better myself. So it wasn't just auditioning. I would go to classes once I graduated, improv classes, acting classes for television and film, and I would just keep working on my craft, be who you know. So I would go to certain teachers and they would get me certain gigs and stuff like that. And so really, once you get out of school, it's all about networking and kind of just being yourself and going around and doing what you can. And if you get something, great. And if not, just keep on going, because sooner or later, it's the New York scene is very interesting because for me, my type, I'm going to start getting more roles when I get older because I am a character actor. Whereas, a majority of the younger guys, like the Romeos and the Hamlets and all of that, they're really pining for. But I'm kind of waiting for the Falstaffs or the Nicely Johnsons and stuff like that, which I can't really play. So I'm a little bit older. So it really is very dependent on who you are as an actor, what you look like, and all that kind of stuff.
So there is a sense of like accepting reality. That like I can't play a Tom Cruise role. Like it's not going to happen. I like to tell myself I can play a Tom Cruise role, but I'm not going to ever play a Tom Cruise role. So there is an understanding of that. I will say that it's impressive. I look at you and I'm like, all right, he's let's see how he's acting this. And then that Mr. Cellophane comes out and you're like, where the hell did that voice come from? And you have some really, really impressive moments on that stage. So really, I mean, I have raved about Chicago since I saw it, and part of that had to do with I had just seen Pretty Woman at the Schubert, which is a professional what have you. And then we get to Brantford High School and we have this performance of Chicago. And I'm like, I'll take this Chicago any day of the week. So you guys are really doing a great job. I know Colin's doing a great job there too, but so are you. Yeah, now, talk to me about, as a Harry Potter fan, first of all, that you're going to respect the source material. But talk to me about this show you got coming up.
Yeah, I mean, so the show, shorthand is just called Puffs, but there is a subtitle to it, just like all the Harry Potter books. It's Puffs, or 7 Increasingly Event School of Magic and Magic. It is a show that's a spin on the story that many people probably are very familiar with, involving a certain boy wizard with a scar on his forehead, but it tells the story through the lens of the laughing stock of this magic school, and they are the Puffs. It's a house in magic school that never seems to win. Their motto throughout the majority of the play is third or nothing. So they really aren't, they really don't win all that much. They fail and they fail and they fail. And in the show, there's many familiar characters. There's Harry himself and a certain grumpy potions teacher. But the show features many new characters and interesting insights to kind of add to the wizarding lore that explains as to why the story may have went certain ways. And because this show is a parody, the usage of the familiar names and locations kind of had to be, because they didn't get the permission of Warner Brothers or J.K. Rowling or anybody like that. So they really did this on their own. But the writer, Matt Cox, really did something unprecedented with modern parody theater. He took a really beloved story and used its location to tell a completely original story with completely original characters. And it really is like a charming and extremely funny production, and I really do think it's going to be a treat for Brantford this holiday season.
Now you're directing this?
I am, yes.
Are you in it?
I am not in it.
Okay.
I'm glad to kind of take a little break. I just actually came off from You're a Good Man Town, and I also directed the youth summer camp production for Parks and Recreation, Brantford Parks and Recreation, Shoreline Theatre Company. Wizard of Oz. I did that as well. So I'm kind of winding down. This is the final show I'm doing with Shoreline for a little bit until next summer. But, you know, we are really excited. It is our 13th show, and it's the second play that we've ever produced. And we are Shoreline celebrating its 5-year anniversary this year. So I know Mike Martone Jr. and Con Sheehan are really looking to celebrate that in some way, shape, or form, which I think they're going to announce pretty soon.
Okay. This show, what are the dates for the show?
For Puffs is Thursday, October 13th, Friday, October 14th, and Saturday, October 15th. All of them are at 7 p.m. and it's in the Kathy N. Roding Auditorium in Brantford High School. And
the age group for this, so are we just Harry Potter fans? Are we young people? What are we expecting? What do you?
Yeah, so it is a family friendly show to a certain degree. It is rated PG-13. I would suggest parents for students that are 13 or younger, but it is appropriate for students probably ages like 9 and up. That's not to say though, if any of them have seen any of the Harry Potter films, most of them are rated PG-13. So if you've read or seen Harry Potter, you'll kind of fit right into.
Is that true? The Harry Potter movies are PG-13?
Yeah, the first two, because they were a little bit like skewed younger, because, you know, as a Harry Potter fan, as the continued to the later installments got a little bit darker, but the first couple were PG, and then once it got to like 3 or 4, it started hitting the PG-13.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I will do my best to be there.
Yeah.
After the last few performances, I'm looking forward to these. I think you guys do an amazing job, and anything Colin does, is there some sort of celebration or a dinner or something to honor the 5-year anniversary?
Yeah, I think that Mike Martone and Colin are really thinking about some different ways that they could celebrate the 5-year anniversary, but they haven't announced it yet, so I'm going to let them kind of roll that out.
Now let's go a little more into. Did you watch yesterday's podcast where we were talking about?
I did
a little bit. Okay. What do we do in Brantford now? It's known for arts. We have a lot of different arts going on. Is there something we could or should be doing to promote it more, to get more people at some of these shows?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when Brantford Parks and Recreation Shoreline Theatre Company first started, it was only like about 30 kids. And right before COVID, we had almost like 70. So much so that I just saw Colin say that whatever they're doing for the Shoreline 5-year, January 13th, 2023, save the date.
Okay.
There were so many, but then COVID hit. And I do think that a lot of it still has to do with some people are still scared to kind of get out there and see shows and it's almost like this weird thing where people don't really know what it's like to be a theater artist anymore. It's something I found, like, even like there's certain shows that I've really wanted to go to, but I've been scared about COVID still. So I've really wanted to go, but I haven't. But that's not to say, I think that there's, it's interesting with Brantford. When I was younger, it always said it was an arts town, right? And I never really saw the theater scene in Brantford until recently. I think that Brantford can finally kind of put its money where its mouth is. Between Shoreline Theatre Company and Legacy Theatre, we're finally seeing these theater opportunities for people. For me, I didn't know anything about what professional theater was like unless I went to Broadway. That's all I thought it was. 18 years old, I was like, oh, there's Broadway, and then there's community theater, And I think finally with Brantford, what's really great is you have that awesome theater in Stony Creek on top of, now you get another theater in with Brantford Parks and Recreation, where you get the community side and the professional theater side. And I think that there's something really special about that. And I think it's just going to be a working game as far as how to market these shows and show people. We're trying new things. I just came out with a trailer for the Puffs yesterday. It's called What is Puffs? Because people hear Puffs, but they're like, what? The tissue brand? Like, they don't, they're not really sure. They're not really sure what exactly it is. So, Colin had a great idea. Like, maybe we should tell people what it is. And so we released a trailer, and hopefully that garners more interest, because I don't think many people hear Puffs and think Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, any insights that you think as far as what maybe there could be more publicity on theater? Or...
Yeah, I mean, obviously you talked about Legacy, and I think there's some issues there with the pricing of tickets, and clearly that's not an issue you have. At $15 for most of your tickets, that's not a problem. That's not prohibitive. And I think if somebody wanted to go and they couldn't afford it, I think something could be worked out there. It wouldn't be much of an issue. But I think more can be done from we're talking about doing something with possibly a building in the center of town that might be more arts focused in the near future. And that could be something that does it. I have one other question for you.
Of course.
And you're someone whose parents pushed you into sports.
Yeah.
And then you went to art. So in my personal life, I have a 4-year-old boy who's I'm fairly close to my girlfriend's son, and we always have this question of, do we put him in Little League? Do we start him in theater? And I think a lot of families go through this. Talk about that. How did you make the transition? Did you know you really gravitated towards the arts and theater, or did you enjoy sports, or was it something that you just kind of drudged through?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to how it is now. When I was going through the sports, it almost was like if you were like the second string, or you weren't particularly all that good at a sport, it almost was like you felt alienated and ostracized. For me, it's different for everybody. But that's at least how I felt. If I wasn't good at the sport, I didn't really connect with anybody, right? But in theater, it's so different, because you could be great at singing and terrible at acting, and people are still going to accept you. You could be terrible at singing and great at accept you, or you could be terrible at both and be a phenomenal dancer. And in theater, there's all these different corners where your talent can show, even if you're not good at one of them. And I think, that's the thing. Like, if you're not good at running, good luck on track, right? Like, if you're not good at catching a ball, good luck in football, good luck in baseball, good luck in basketball. Like, these are all things, if you're not good at something particular, it's very niche. But like with theater, it's kind of very fluid. It's very just like, okay, you can't act, but hey, you sing great. We're going to give you this number in Act 2, and that's the only thing you got, but it's going to bring the house down, right? And I think that for me, I really felt a little bit like alone when I was going through stuff and not good. And when I felt not good at something, it was just really disheartening. And then when I got so many of the same people, that weren't good at certain things, but didn't care and wanted to try something different. And it's kind of there where you find yourself. You find what you're good at in theater, because it's a lot of what you think. Like with shows like Wizard of Oz and musicals and all of that, what the message is, it really is up to the actor. And it's there you kind of get your own voice and you figure out your own say in things. And I think that for people deciding on whether or not to do it, you'll know pretty quickly when you get into a theater production whether or not it's for you or it's not. But I would say try anything you can. I mean, hey, if I could play sports, I would, because all of my friends play sports and they have a great time doing it. And I'm just like, nice. It's but for it's there's just something special where a bunch of people who have different talents come in and create something whole. And with sports, it's kind of the same thing. A lot of sports, though, you have to be good at that certain thing. Yeah. And with theater, you can be good at so many different things, and the show ends up just shining because of all the individuality that created that whole. And that's kind of actually why. Sorry, now I'm going to. Yeah. That's kind of why I really have been enjoying my time with Brantford Parks and Recreation Shoreline Theatre Company, and every year them doing a summer show. I mean, these camps, we have kids that come in from grades, the second grade, all the way until 8th grade, and that's a massive age gap. And there's so many different emotional and socio-emotional things going on with all these different age groups. Yet weeks, what I really love is when those final 2 weeks, it doesn't matter whether they're 5 or they're 14, they've become a unit, and they're working together on something that is just really hard for kids to do by themselves, and they do it by themselves. I mean, with the camps, we kind of we set it all up, and then it's like, all right, this is your show the final week, and it went off without a hitch. And I mean, these are kids that they're kids, and it was still a great production, and we filled the house, and the families absolutely loved it. And it's just something to be said. Like, it is really beautiful. Like, when you think about it, when all of these different people of completely different backgrounds come together and just create something whole.
No, it's interesting, because I think parents in general should remember that while I'm a huge advocate of extracurricular activities, that traditionally has meant sports, has traditionally meant put your kids in soccer, put your kids in whatever it is at a young age. It doesn't have to be just sports. It could be a lot of the arts, and they may find their voice there. And it is interesting thinking of the roles people play. We think of athletes, but not all athletes some are the starters, and some sit on the bench and never get a role, and that could be alienating. I can see that being an issue. So I'm glad you had the courage to make a change and try something new. Yeah, I'm glad your parents were kicking you out of the house and didn't want you in your room.
Yeah,
and you tried something, and certainly it's our benefit that you've taken that on and are taking these roles. So you're a pleasure to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing this show in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. All right. Okay. So that's actually a very interesting point. When we talk about, putting kids need something beyond school, right? They need extracurricular activities. But in a world where we talk about bullying a lot, when we talk about, athletes in different groups and cliques, it's interesting that in a theater production, you can have any of, and it may not be something even on the stage. It could be behind the scenes. It could be managing the stage production, could be producing, could be all these other things that give you a sense of being part of a team, even if you can't catch a ball or do something athletic. Interesting to have that conversation. Smart guy. I liked having him on, and his work on stage is really, really exceptional. So it's interesting. It's a lot of self-awareness that he thinks his better roles will come later on. I hope that's true for him. I hope he gets to play something significant on Broadway too. I can't wait to hope that happens and get to go see it. So that's 4:30. That's a half hour. We'll let it go. Tomorrow we'll talk more about politics. I do want to talk about student loan program, and I want to talk about the governor race. Thursday we'll talk more about the local races, and then starting Monday we'll have interviews with candidates that are running for office. But until then, I want to thank Chris for coming on. And we will be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Until then, have a great